Mike Boyce, the chairman of Cobb County.
Well, good afternoon. As I was telling Oliver, this is going to be short because my blood pressure medicine's kicking in. And we all know what that means. So those who have the Coke bottle, I'd appreciate if you bring it up right now. Just a couple small things. I think I appreciate the kind words from Pat, but Dave Cooper, where's Dave here?
Just went to bed. Good time.
Dave Cooper, a number of years ago, I thought I knew what it took to get into the VA, and I told Dave what I was doing, and Dave said to me, "Colonel, you don't know crap." I'll be polite. "You need to come with me, and I'm going to show you how it's done." So all I've done for the veterans is a direct result paying forward for what Dave Cooper did for me by taking down there and showing me the ropes. And as I tell everybody, the secret to the VA is persistence. Never give up. And I'm a classic example because I finally, after last year, after a 12-year battle, won my last award. Then I was asking for 10% to get me up over 50. But the ironic is that was the first thing I started with 12 years ago to get something that I thought that I had earned because of my status as a pilot. So as I tell everybody, if you've not used the VA, it's never about the care you get there. The care you get there is 5-star. It's about the entry-level employees who are not properly trained, that are turning away Vietnam vets, all right? And because the Vietnam vet who shows up at that door does not know that they're being given bad guidance. If you're a Vietnam vet and you have a DD-214 that has your Vietnam campaign medal or service medal, you're an automatic priority 6, which brings all kinds of benefits. So I'm just going to put that kind word in. I just want to do a couple things here. I like to start out with a kind of a funny story. I am a Marine, so what you see right now is I am laughing. This is a smile. I like to do ride-alongs with the police about once every 2 or 3 weeks, because just like you that have been in the service, you have to get out with the troops and see what they're doing. So one night, it's amazing that these people that consistently go back to jail, how they sort of put themselves out there to let people know that, hey, I want to go back to jail. So it was an afternoon. It was probably around, 3 or 4 o'clock. We're driving through a development, and this guy goes speeding by us on a 2-lane road, and he's on the wrong side of a double yellow line, and he passes us in a clearly marked police car. And to his utter shock, he stopped. Turns out he has a warrant. So, again, there's a reason these guys are in jail. It isn't because they're GCT, it's barely above plant life. A lot of them are. So we go down to the jail, and this is the first time I've been down on the other side of the entrance in there. I've been down there to talk to Sheriff Warren, who's a really popular sheriff in our county. So I go inside where they process someone that's going to be brought down to be put behind bars. And the first thing that caught my attention is that the police officer went to the center part of the holding area to start doing his paperwork, and this gentleman that we had picked up breaks off to the right and immediately starts going through the process of what it takes to be put in jail. So clearly he's been here before. Starts taking off his shoelaces and everything, and goes to the right doors. Well, the police officer is just doing his report. I just found this remarkably amazing that nobody had to escort this guy. So I'm watching all this, and the police officer looks over and he says, it would really be nice if we had a pogey bait machine down here, which is for all of you non-naval people, is a snack machine. And for you Air Force guys, it's something you never touch, because it doesn't have a white tablecloth with it. And you know that I'm right about that. So anyway, I says, well, I can probably do something about that. I know the guy who runs the jail. So I call up Sheriff Warren. I say, hey, and he's not there, but I leave a voice message. I said, Neil, I'm down here at the jail, and it'd be nice if I had a snack machine down here where I could get something to eat. So I leave that on, and so about 5 minutes later, I get a phone call, but it's got an unlisted number, and I just don't answer unlisted, phone numbers. I take enough abuse from people that I know. I don't need to go looking for people that I don't know. Well, unbeknownst to me, Neil thinks that I've been arrested. Okay? And when I don't answer the phone, he thought I'd been taken back and I'm being processed. So Neil, bless his heart, he goes into anaphylactic shock, thinking that the chairman of Cobb County has been arrested by one of his people and is now being processed. And he can only read the headline. And he thought that because I didn't answer the phone that I'd been taken aback. So in the meantime, so he sends down his deputy, a guy named Milton Beck, who's a terrific guy. Well, by this time, I've left the jail, and we're back on the road trying to find some more people who qualify for this earned benefit. And so Milton doesn't see me there, so he thinks I'm back in the holding cells, one of the holding cells somewhere. So he has a picture of me taken from somewhere. It couldn't be from the MDJ because they printed an unprintable picture of me, so no one would recognize my picture if you looked at the MDJ. But he's got a picture of me on his iPhone, and he's going around talking to all these deputies saying, have you seen this guy? And of course, none of them have seen me because I'm gone, all right? Well, Milton finally figures out that he should call me on my personal cell phone, and he says, hey, Chairman, where are you? I said, well, I'm out here at Floyd Road and Veterans Memorial Highway. He says, what are you doing there? I said, well, I'm arresting bad guys. He says, well, you're not in jail? Which I said, why would I be in jail? All right? And the light finally goes on. So the next couple weeks later, I'm doing a ride along, this time with Sheriff's Department, and when I get into the car with the deputy, he hands me a brown bag that has snacks in it and Cokes. So even when I'm behaving, it doesn't work. I just want you to know that. But anyway, I've been in office now a little over 11 months, and you're absolutely right. I have no idea what I was thinking. I'll be very kind. It's a thankless job. This job is big beyond measure, but when you're called to a duty, you do your job. And that's exactly what I'm doing every day. And this job owns me. I have no life. I have 4 grandchildren. I've seen one set of them once in July, and the other set I saw for Thanksgiving. So if you're going to do it right like you do in your military job, you give it 150% or you get out of town. And I do this job right. And having said that, I'm the chairman of some of the nicest people in the United States of America. Truly the nicest people in the United States of America, who have benefited, who I really believe, from the best government in the Atlanta metro area. We have a staff that is second to none, that I'm working very hard right now to bring more compensation and benefits to, and working with a community that's very, very fiscally conservative. So I don't want to talk about them, though. I want to talk about today is something that you probably all know about, which is the Braves. And I want to talk about the impact of why, if you do not do open and transparent government, you, the taxpayer, will ultimately pay the bill. Okay? And this is not an attack or any kind of criticism of the Braves. If I was John Sherholtz, I would have done nothing different, because he's a businessman. But I run a government. And there's a reason government doesn't do business, because we don't know how to do business. We know how to provide government services, and we do that better. I don't care whether it's DeKalb or Fulton. We provide government services because that's what we're trained. That's our direction. That's our mindset. That's what we do. But here, let me give you a scenario where I think we could have done this differently and still had the win-win that we're ultimately going to have with the development. It's been asserted by members that we could have done this, we could not have done this in any other way. Well, I disagree. Because the law very clearly allows me to have an executive session, which means a closed session, to discuss real estate opportunities. Why is that? Well, it's clear. If you're a business person, because you want to have real estate opportunities discussed in a closed setting so that you can keep the price down, and you want to be competitive. If I want to bring a business into my county, whether it be Cobb or DeKalb or Gwinnett or anywhere else, I don't want to get out there what the customer is willing to pay, because what's going to happen? You as a business person are going to drive your prices of your real estate up to that amount, so you're going to scare away that business opportunity. So the law recognizes that sometimes in public-private partnerships, you have to have a venue where both sides can get together and discuss things. The interesting thing about this law is when the Braves came in, if the Braves came in and said, look, we want to buy 56 acres down at the corner of 75 and 285, they don't have to say what they're going to buy, what they're going to put on that property. All right? But I could have probably figured it out. All right? But the bottom line is, they could have come in, discussed that they want to buy this property and they want to work with the county on doing this. And we could have done that. And why would have been so important to us as a county? Because since we now discussed this among the commissioners, that allowed any chairman to now go and ask the commissioners, all right, to bring in an outside party to negotiate on behalf of the county that knew what they're doing. And here's what we had instead, is our negotiating team was the chairman, the head of director of transportation, the head of finance, the county manager, and there might have been one other person in there. But who was missing from this discussion? A lawyer. A lawyer. And that's what got us in trouble. Because after we got into these discussions with this 5-star negotiating team called the Braves, we realized that we were a little short-handed at this gunfight. All right? And we tried informally to go out and find somebody who was going to be an informal lawyer on behalf of us. And of course, that doesn't work either. All right? Because that breaks the Open Records Act. You can't go out and convey a promise to somebody outside, formal or informal or otherwise, to have them work for you without some kind of a contract. Why is that? Because they're speaking on behalf of the county. It's why we have these issues when people are saying, well, look, I wanted to come work in your senior center or your library for free. You can't do that because there's liability issues. So whether we like it or not, the world today is governed by lawyers, by the law. And I'm just way beyond that issue. That's just the nature of how we live today. So let's say that they had come to us, we had the executive session, we agreed to work with them on buying the land, on the property, all right? Then we could have come outside of executive session and voted on that property. And then the rest would have been history, all right? Because then we could have then legally gone out, our legal department could have gone out and contracted lawyers that could have negotiated for us to reach to an equitable agreement. So, but that didn't happen. The second thing is that it's interesting that no matter how much we put out there, how little people read it. What we're going through right now in Cobb County shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. The only article that the MDJ never published was the one that I simply said, look, I'm not against the Braves coming to Cobb County. I think there's a lot of good reasons to have it come. But what I want to do is I want to take time to do due diligence on a $350 million project. Now, who here that has done projects of $350 million does due diligence in 17 days? Come on, really? All right, plus 2 of those days were over national federal holidays. Well, we didn't have the opportunity to do that, all right? And the board voted on it, and it was passed 3-2. What are the consequences of not having done our due diligence? Oh, by the way, when 2 of the commissioners agreed to support the deal, the MOU had not yet been drafted and completed upon, reviewed by our lawyer, and agreed upon. So what they agreed upon was the principle of the Braves coming to this property. All right, so it didn't matter what we went through with the town halls. He already had 3 votes. All right, and those 2 commissioners that supported it weren't going to go back on their word, even though they had never had the opportunity to read an MOU because the MOU wasn't out yet. Well, the MOU very clearly stated, and this is where I'm in trouble now, about all the things that we had to provide to the Braves. All right, a bridge over 285, infrastructure, policemen, $1.2 million every year for O&M that we provide to the stadium for a stadium we get to use 4 days a year, in which I have absolutely no idea how to use them because I have nobody in government that knows how to rent a stadium, much less bring on a venue like Metallica. Okay? So this would all have come out in the due diligence part, and we could have had a negotiation where we could have finally had 2 parts being equal. So here's what the challenge I'm going through right now. I had a $14 million obligation that was also part of the MOU that was known in 2013. That when I came into office, if we had not reached a reasonable compromise with the Braves on that $14 million, by opening day, I would have had to write them a blank check for $14 million. Now, I have no idea why $14 million in infrastructure wasn't brought forth to the board between November of 2013 and January of 2017. I just don't know, okay? But what I did know is that in the development agreement and the MOU, we had an obligation to come up with $14 million in infrastructure. And oh, by the way, the law says that I can't have somebody else build something first without a contract and then I can reimburse them. That puts me in an orange suit, along with everybody else. So all the stuff that we did before I got into office, we couldn't take credit for. So the Braves sat down with the county manager and our county attorney and came up with a compromise of how we're going to reach that $14 million, which, by the way, came down to about $11.4 million. So I don't know about you guys, but I think that if your negotiator went in and came back out $2.6 million in savings, you might thought that was a pretty good guy, all right? Well, that's what our negotiators could do with the county manager and the county attorney. We managed to bring that number down to $11.4 million, but more importantly, we got that $14 million bill off the desk. Because I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where I was going to come up with $14 million after opening day, except it would have had to come out of the general fund. I just want you to get the idea of why this is so important, that you take in time to time to have open and transparent government. There are consequences, and I'm still not done with the consequences because I have $1 million bill for the policemen and the famous cone brigade, which lines up, the orange cones around the stadium. We're going to find a way through this. But I sure as the heck would like not to have all these problems right now as I'm trying to move forward in a county, that is a 5-star, and businesses still want to come here, but we have a challenge trying to keep our taxes low. We have we added $22 million of debt payment every year to our balance sheet, and we accounted for everything but except $6.4 million of that, which is our contribution to the principal and the interest on the Braves deal that we're living up to. And in time, we're going to find a way to use the development and the property and personal property taxes from that to pay off that $6.4 million. But right now, I don't have the money to pay that $6.4 million from property taxes. So that comes right out of the taxpayer's wallet. And I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, don't you ever think for a second that the people are still forgotten about this. I learned that last summer when I did my town halls, trying to get a millage rate approved on a budget that was passed the year before me. All right? I was 6'6" in June. I'm down to 6'2". All I'm saying is, don't ever buy the line that it's in your best interest to do things in secret when it comes to your government. No, that's not true. You have to have faith in the American people. You have to trust their instincts. You have to listen to them when they tell you that, hey, this doesn't sound right, and you should not go forward until you've addressed all their needs in a way you can justify and defend your actions in an open forum. And that goes absolutely back to the time that we were on active duty and what we stood for, which is truth, honor, trust, integrity, and men and women of our word. Just because I'm a politician now doesn't mean that my values have changed. If anything, my values are challenged even more every day now than when I was on active duty. I have one responsibility in my job, and that's the voters and citizens of Cobb County, all of them. And what I've had to learn over the first 11 months is to be patient. Because in the military, we would have a discussion, but once we agreed on it, then we'd move forward. Well, the discussion in politics is a lot longer. All right? I have 741,000 people who who all think they can do a better job than me as chairman. I don't see any of them trying to run for this job, though, all right? Although it's not true. I did have one guy about 3 months ago who was really, really upset about something I did, and he told me that he was going to run against me. And I asked him where I could send the check. All right? So, my message to you today is we are men of valor. We are set apart by the lives the obligations we took when we swore an oath to our country. And that obligation stays with us for our whole life. It doesn't end when you get out of your uniform. It doesn't end when you retire. It never ends because we stand for something. And even if you don't agree with what I'm saying, at least you know how I feel about it now, all right? We need to be, as a politician, what we're seeing right now in Washington is unfathomable to me. And I spent a lot of time in Washington, doing security assistance and procurement up there. I've never seen it like my whole life. But what I can say about Cobb County is that even if the votes are 3-2, at least we're still moving forward. But it's a tough job. And I think what we ask from you as our voters, those who are in Cobb County, but elsewhere too, is if you have an issue, for heaven's sakes, tell me about the issue, but also let me know what you think a better solution might be for it. All right? Because we don't have all the limitations we have in our system is because we're politicians. All right? We don't do this job for the money. And my fellow commissioners, who I've really come to respect and admire a lot, they're all part-time. Well, they could spend 20 hours a week just doing one thing and one thing only. That's called zoning. Well, that truly is a zero-sum game. There's winners and losers in zonings. But for the issues that I have at my board, I try to find a consensus. But that takes me time to do that. But I have to also, start building trust with the people who have lost the trust in the government because we weren't open and transparent. Because with trust, you have to be truthful, because when you have truth, you have trust. And when you have trust, you have a relationship. And I'm working very, very hard right now to build a relationship with my people. So my message to you today is, if you wear the uniform, still do your duty. Help your public officials because we need your help. But the bottom line is we have hard choices to make. And I really believe that the voters, deep down inside, are glad that we're making the hard choices. Because a lot of them, it's just too much. But that's our job, and I'm fine with that. So with that, I realize you all have things to do this afternoon. I want to thank you for inviting me. I want to welcome everybody home today. You've been, your welcome is long overdue. My father was in Long Bin in 69 and 70. And your generation, sadly, as we saw from the Ken Burns film, is still blaming the troops. I just don't get it. I watched every one of those segments, and I still can't figure it out. But maybe that's the legacy that you bear, is that your job is to get out there like I do, is try to tell the other side of the story. But do it in a respectful manner so we can have a dialogue, because without that, we'll never accomplish anything. So with all of that, I want to thank all of you for your service. Those of you that were not in the service but are spouses, I want to thank you for your service too. While we were out there running around the jungle, or in my case, the desert, doing our thing, you're home taking care of the home fires and making sure that our kids were properly brought up. And my hat's off to everyone in here, and it's just great to be among a band of warriors. So thank you very much.
Before Mike leaves, please sit down. I'd like to open up the floor for a couple of questions if you have any. Tony, where are you?
On your flank.
There he goes. Okay. Microphone coming your way.
Do not ask me why Stanford beat Notre Dame, all right?
Hey, Mike, thank you very much.
Sure.
What's the status of your predecessor and his cronies? What I'm hearing is something similar. What I'm hearing is something similar to what happened to the Orange Bowl and the monstrosity that went up in Miami. And for those of you who haven't heard, I think the mayor that was involved in that decision and 9 or 10 of the commissioners went to jail for that.
Well, we don't have that in Cobb County, fortunately. First of all, you know, I'll say this about my predecessor, Tim Lee. He fell on his sword for the stadium. He did. He went to bat for it every single day, and I admire him for that because it was very controversial. I don't think he was very well advised by his friends. I think they talked to him and they believed that we could do this without open and transparent. I just don't believe that. Tim is now up in Habersham County, has got a great job there as economic development. And he went up there for family reasons. He wasn't chased out of town. Tim is a decent guy. But I think that, again, you can be better. He could have been better served by his friends about how to do this. Oliver.
Unrelated to Cobb County politics, I think it's worthwhile telling them how you went from being a grandparent to I was asking Mike to share with you how he went from being a Marine ground pounder to aviation, because it's a pretty funny story.
Well, I was on deployment in the mountains of California. Those near Hunter Liggett. Those have been there. What a great area. Except that we were testing out this. I was an FO with Echo 27, and we've been running up and down the mountains of Hunter Liggett, you know, for about a week. But the trouble was that we were testing out this new system called a Seaborne Mobile Logistics System, and the acronym was supposed to be SMILES. But by the end of the week, we kept calling it SMELLS. Because the weakness in the system is that they were going to resupply everything off the ship. So we wouldn't have to put everything on the beach and then drive it up to the mountains. The trouble is it rained every day for 7 days. All right? So the helicopters couldn't get into the LZ where we were at. And I literally took my patrol map out one night and did my patrol routes in reverse to pick up the peanut butter cans that we'd thrown away. We all remembered why we never ate those things either, right? But that's how hungry we were. So anyway, on the 7th day, I'm sitting in the near the LZ, and the clouds broke, and this 46 flies into the LZ, drops the ramp, and this crew chief gets out, starts throwing out sea rats. And I'm sitting there with my RTO, miserable, because I haven't been dry in 4 days. And I looked at this guy, and I said, you know, he's going back to the ship. They're going to watch a movie. They're going to sleep in a rack. They're going to get ice cream, all right? And it's going to be heated. No white tablecloth. And 6 months later, I was in flight school. And the motto, the motto there is, I'm ugly, but I'm not stupid. So.
Anybody else? Got one over here.
Yes, sir.
Carl, do you think our country's problems would be better solved if we had more military personnel in politics?
I think our country problems would be small if we had more people with military values. It's not about the military, it's about our value systems. And I get the part, you know, that the current generation is different than us. We have to accept that. I'm fine with that. But I just see a lot of the common courtesies that I knew when I was brought up be lacking. And that leads to this lack of civil discourse. You cannot possibly have a reasonable discussion if people are yelling at each other. And the first thing I do is when I tell people, look, I know you're upset. What I've come to see is when a person comes to a meeting or calls me or emails me, they're taking very valuable time out of their lives. And I had to finally wake up and realize that even though they don't agree with me, I got to appreciate they're sacrificing time out of their life to bring an issue to me. And I got to respect that. And once I started doing that, because I call a lot of them back personally, all right, so look, I hear you, and let's just have a conversation about that. And I think that's word is getting out, but that's where I really feel. It's always about values. Values don't change over time, all right? And the number one value right now that I believe is integrity. Now, I've told my commissioners, the moment you catch me lying, fire me. And you know, I both know, all of us, that sometimes telling the truth is hard. It isn't because the truth is hard, it's because we don't want to hurt the person's feeling, or we've done something stupid and we don't want to look stupid. It never works. Just tell the truth. And in my job, I do that every single day. And I tell everybody that when you email me, I personally answer your emails, and they're not screened by my outside staff. I try to have a dialogue with everyone in my county. And like I said here, I think that when you show the respect that we should show our troops, you get that bilateral relationship going, then you start solving problems.
Last question, Mark.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for being here. Two-part question.
Sure.
You send out this video
Right.
once a week, I
Right.
think it is.
Right.
Is that the first time that's been done? Did your predecessor do that?
I don't know. I don't know. Good question.
What
I
kind of
think-
reaction are you getting from the public on that?
You know, here's the interesting thing. This morning, before I came down here, I was prepared for you because I sat in front of 55 seniors, all right, who are not happy about the fees we've been proposing, that we're proposing to start using our senior centers, 55. And here's a couple of things that I've learned in politics. Seniors, they all vote. No, they all vote, and they bring their friends with them, all right? The second thing is library people. They don't vote until you vote to close their library. Then they all vote, and they bring their friends. And the third thing is there are no difference between Democrats and Republicans. Both want everything for free. They just want different things, all right? So, I'm sorry. You know, I'm trying to put some humor in this because otherwise I would cry, all right? So the bottom line here is that what I've come to see is, and I may be reading this wrong, but I really feel this is true about my county, our county, Cobb County. We do things so well, and I mean the staff. They do things so well that they've just been taken for granted. So these fees that we've been proposing for the last 2 months, and we've had public hearings, we put out emails, the commissioners all have a weekly email that talks about it. We did everything we possibly could from our side to let people know about the proposed fees. I'll exaggerate. I think maybe 2 people showed up, okay? Well, of course, I thought there was something wrong with that, but the board voted for them unanimously. Well, what I found out is you really have to go out and dig out the voters and tell them, hey, look, I'm about to hose you. Okay? No. Because we do things so well there that they just think that we're going to do everything forever for nothing, all right? And the reality is, until it affects their pocketbook, they aren't going to get engaged. Until something affects you personally, you're not going to get engaged. The reason I won my race isn't because, you know, people liked my campaign, although, you know, knocking on 8,000 doors helped. It's they didn't like the other guy. How did I find out? Because all those things that I said I was going to do during my campaign, I got done in my first 6 months. People are saying, well, why are you doing those? Well, because I campaigned on them. Well, we don't want you to do them now, okay? Because it involved an extra tax for the green space. So I've had to change my whole outlook about how we get to the people. Because it doesn't matter that we do everything right. It doesn't matter. We work for them. And if they're not hearing what we're trying to do to them, then we're not doing it right. That's the bottom line. We got to do it differently. And you can't fall back on the line, well, I did everything that I was supposed to do. No, that doesn't work. Why is that? Because in 4 years, they'll pull the trigger on you and throw you out. You have to make the energy, find out where they are, make sure you talk to that population, the demographics going to be affected, and actively engage them in that. And we're about in the process of doing that right now. So my suspicion is on these fees, which are pretty high. I saw them. I didn't care much for them, but you know, we voted on it because we needed the money. We're going to go back and revisit this issue. The smart thing we did, though, is that when we voted on the fees, we gave it 2 months before we started to implement them. So this morning, I told these 55 seniors, you go find your friends, here's my email card, and you start emailing me with your objections. You build the base that I can take to the other commissioners and show them we need to relook at this issue. And once we do that, that sends a message to the people that we hear them and we're willing to work with them. And we start building that trust and that relationship, which is so important between the people and their elected officials. So we got our work cut out for us, but I know I got the right board to do that. I got the right staff, and we have the right process in place to do that. Okay, well, listen, I know you got things to do, but I'll hang around for a few minutes if you want.
Thank you. I just hope that Mike does not lose the exuberance that I have seen him exhibit as long as I've known you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Again,
Best wishes.